I'm Doug McEwen. I'm a retired aircraft accident investigator. I brought my grandfather's paybook, his notebook, as well as a couple of German postcards and a German helmet insignia. In the paybook, he also has some rose petals. I'm not sure where they were taken from, but they're still in there 105 years later.
In wartime, the souvenirs collected by surviving servicemen and women are tangible reminders of the places they have been and the things they have seen. The destruction caused by the Great War was, at the time, unparalleled. Both civilians and soldiers awoke to a changed world every day, and whatever remained in the wake was theirs for the taking. Weapons, flags, and personal items were popular collectibles, but the spiked and grossly ineffective pickelhaube helmet was, considered by some, the Holy Grail. Worn by the Imperial German Army, it was retired mid-conflict in favour of designs and materials better suited for early 20th century warfare. The pickelhaube survived through ceremonial use until 1918, when it disappeared from military dress completely.
Doug, welcome to Militaria.
Thank you.
This particular item, Doug, is a soldier's daily diary, so he could, put his experiences that he would have every day into that diary, and they were given out to the troops everywhere. And over here, this is very much more personal item in that it's a soldier's paybook. So all his particulars would have been down in here, where he was at a given date, his rates of pay, if he spent some time in the hospital, everything would have been recorded in this book. These are letters that a soldier could use to write home to his family. They're unused. Most likely they were taken off a German prisoner or perhaps the body of a German soldier. And right here, we have it's what's called a helmet plate that is taken off an M1895 pattern German spiked helmet, or pickelhaube. This came off a helmet that was originally adopted by the Prussian military in 1842. Afterwards, pretty much all the states of Germany adopted that same helmet. They stopped using this leather helmet in 1915 as wounds to the head were becoming a serious problem for frontline troops. So they adopted something called the M16 helmet, which is the steel helmet, which we recognized more from the Second World War, but actually made his first appearance in 1916.
When they moved to the metal helmet, did they retain insignias like this on that?
Insignia such as this helmet plate were no longer required. By that time in the war, there was much more of a focus on camouflage of the helmet, and that's where we start to see 1917, 1918 is the appearance of a camouflage pattern put on helmets. Now, not every single helmet was camouflaged, but this largely disappeared. This is basically a remnant of the 19th century, and so it was gone by 1915. So Doug, as you've mentioned, all these artifacts were brought back by your grandfather, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
What can you tell me about him?
Well, he enlisted at the age of 15, lied about his age. He was wounded in the battle at Lens. A gunshot wound in his right arm. He was evacuated to England, where they eventually had to amputate his arm. So at 16, he was lost his right arm, and at 17, he was back home. Subsequent to that, he volunteered through the World War II to work with the civilian defense group. And after that, it was pretty quiet in our house talking about it. We never spoke about his exploits in the war. He never brought them up, and we never broached the problem.
Pretty much everyone, whether they were 15 to 50, was trying to get overseas to participate in the war. People wanted to see action. They wanted to, maybe leave their everyday life in the Canadian town to be kind of boring. They wanted to see Europe and see the big, bright lights, big city. And unfortunately, they found out that it wasn't quite what they thought it would be.
He did well with just one arm, although it was very evident when he was with us or others that he was missing it because he just tucked his sleeve into his pants, right? But he did well from a business perspective. He was involved in many unions, traveled Canada as part of that. And it, from what I recall, it didn't seem to make much of a detriment, including his golf game.
That's fascinating. So he actually adapted to it and carried on and went on to help out in the Second World War. Wow. But he wasn't the only one in the family to suffer.
No, that's correct. His older brother also suffered a wound in Vimy and subsequently had to have his left leg amputated.
And how did you know your uncle as well? Did you get to or his
Personally,
brother?
no, I did not. I have memoirs written, but never met him myself, no.
Well, that's a lot of sacrifice for one family.
Yeah.
Doug, you've brought in some great artifacts for us today. What are your plans for these artifacts?
Well, these, as well as the letters that I have, will be given to my son and the grandkids, so that there's the connection that's still there, and lest we forget.
Absolutely. I think that's a very fitting tribute to your grandfather, that they do stay in the family and that they are appreciated. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in, Doug, and sharing your family's history with us today. It's greatly appreciated.
Thanks for letting me come in. My grandfather after the war was very quiet, very subdued demeanor. He was very focused when he spoke. I'd like the audience to take home today the significance of what took place 105 years ago. Those are significant sacrifices that were made so that we can enjoy what we have today.